Hello, teachers, and a very warm welcome to today's Facebook and YouTube live event. I'm Huma, and as always, I'm joined by my co tutor, Zainab. Hi, Zainab.
Hi everyone. Hi Huma. Thank you all
Hi,
for joining us today.
how are you doing today, Zainab?
Doing very well. How are you?
I'm all right, thank you, Zainab. So, Zainab and I are here today to talk to you about digital competencies for teaching English. So, basically, we're going to talk about using digital resources purposefully for teaching, learning, and also for your own professional development. Before we begin, if you're here, please tell us who and where you are, and please add your comments and questions to the chat. Okay, so Zainab, this is a huge topic, and we are excited
Yes.
to talk about this today, aren't we?
Yes, it is. I mean, technology is so important now in the ESL classroom.
Yes,
Everybody
indeed.
uses it.
Yes, I don't think we it's going to be hard to live without digital resources or tools anymore. So,
Yes,
Zainab,
exactly.
if you remember, we conducted a poll in the community a few days ago, and we asked teachers about the use of digital resources, and we've got some results here. About 31 percentage of the respondents said that they use digital resources for learning activities, and followed by others who said they use them for making their lessons more fun and
Mhm.
engaging. So basically, the question that's on our mind is how can we use digital resources for teaching and learning? Zainab, any thoughts?
Yeah. So, as we mentioned, it's so important nowadays in the classroom. And as a teacher, we need to think about and, ask the question, how can we use digital tools in the classroom to make them meaningful and effective to support learning, um, and not just for extra screen time for the students. So when it comes to using digital resources, you want to make sure that you use it with a clear purpose. Learning becomes a lot more engaging, a lot more interactive, and personalized when we use digital tools. Um, in the post that we put in our Facebook group asking which type of digital tools do you use, so many we got so many
Mm,
comments with the types of. I was actually very happy to see that a lot of the teachers are using digital tools such as Kahoot, such as WordWall, in their classroom. And these tools are great. They're so much fun. They're excellent as energizers. They're excellent as quick reviews, as pop quizzes. I think if you just gave a student a piece of paper and asked them to match, answers together, um, they wouldn't find it as interesting and as engaging as to if you gave them a word wall to do. I mean, Kahoot as well, telling them that you have a quiz tomorrow and we're going to use Kahoot. I think students would probably revise and study more than if it was a regular, quiz on a piece of paper. It's so competitive. I've done Kahoot with adults and they found it so competitive, so fun. What's great about Kahoot is it shows that after every question, who's leading, who's winning. So after every question, everybody's trying to answer the quickest. So these are excellent apps. And then, of course, we have things like YouTube, BBC Learning, where we can watch short videos. I think there's a lot of concepts that can be explained much better in a short video, a visual video that students can actually see. They probably will also pay attention more than if the teacher explained it in his or her own words. And what's great about videos, blogs, podcasts, these these things that are easily accessible online is that they bring an authenticity into the classroom.
oh, yeah.
Students see real life English and they're exposed to the culture, they're exposed to different accents. So it's great to use these in the classroom, and it's so easily accessible. It's all there, and it's free basically.
Absolutely. So, Zainab, if I can comment there, actually, I was thinking about this yesterday. So, for me, when I look at digital resources, I look at them into two different categories. One, resources for
Mhm.
teachers, basically for
Yeah.
planning their lessons, digital time savers, so tools that can help teachers, reduce their workload. And two, of course, resources, learning resources that they could use with students in the classroom. So you mentioned lots of great resources for student use in the classroom. I think there are also resources that teachers can use for planning their lessons. For example, TWE,
Definitely.
TWEE.com, twee.com. Twee is a great game changer. So it's a wonderful tool for planning lessons. You can, share any YouTube link or any text, and it gives you very interactive activities, exercises, and games that you can use with your learners. And there's also Diffit, which is a very good platform for differentiation. Again, you can share links to articles, YouTube links, or maybe paste, text, if possible. And then it again gives you differentiated questions that you can use with different levels in your class, because you have to choose the level, the grade or the level, and gives you comprehension exercises and Jeopardy activities you can use for different levels. So I think there are so many tools that teachers can use. And
Yeah.
recently I used one, it's called invideoai.com. I learned it from one of my colleagues. So this tool is amazing for creating your own videos. So imagine you have a dialogue in your course book, but you want a video, maybe a dialogue role playing a situation at a restaurant, and you want to show this to your learners. All you have to do is go to invideoai.com and add this dialogue, and it will create a scene for you at a restaurant with animated
Amazing.
characters role playing,
Yeah.
that conversation. However, a note of caution here, because we might not want to pull something directly from course books and other published resources. So if you want to use such things, I suggest adapt them, change them, make them your own. So the learning aim remains the same, but the content is a little bit different, so that you don't violate any copyright laws. But these are some very nice resources that teachers can use for planning their lessons, in addition to the resources that Zainab mentioned for student use and engagement in the classroom.
Thank
Zainab,
you,
I
Homa. I'd
think,
like to add something just
yes, go
quickly
ahead.
when it comes to teacher resources. Something else, you spoke about differentiation. I think differentiation
Mm.
is great. It saves so much time from the teacher because it does it for you. The digital tools does it for you. And I have an activity here I'd like to share using QR codes. So you can easily create free QR codes online
Oh, yeah.
and post them on the wall and then have students just scan. It's easy access to the digital content. No, you don't have to like type in anything or search for a link. And here I have a differentiation activity where we have three different activities. So one is for watching a video, one is for a reflective activity using Padlet, and another one is a game on WordWall. So you just stick it on the wall, and the students use their devices and they scan the code with the activity they would like to do, and they do that. And this is great for differentiation, personalization. It's very easily accessible, and like I said, you can easily create these QR codes online for free. So this is a great
Yes.
resource for teachers as well.
Yes, that's a great idea, Zainab. Also because it gives agency to students, to make their own choice, and helps them to work, at their own level, at a level suitable to them. So also, I mean, like you said, I mean, you can give choice to students, but also online there are so many resources that you can guide students to for their own development and their own time, for independent learning.
Exactly.
I think module one of our course, Digital Competencies for Teaching English, also encourages independent learning that students can do by themselves. And like Zainab said, there are lots of other resources. You can also set up activities for students. I mean, flip your classroom. So maybe students watch a YouTube video before the lesson, and they come to
Exactly.
class, and the class time is used actually, for clarifying meaning, checking understanding, and for practice. You could do that. You could also, if you don't find relevant videos, you could record one. There are so many apps, so you got video recording apps, you got voice recording apps like Vocaro, video recording apps like Flipgrid, where you could record videos and send it to your students. They could watch them, and then they come to lesson prepared to talk about different things, or work with their peers, to learn together and to support each other. So there are so many ways you can use digital resources, both for planning as well as for teaching. Zainab, I think it's a good time to jump into
Yeah.
the chat and see who we have with us here today. We got a lot of teachers joining us from different parts of the world. We got teachers from Sri Lanka, from Libya, from Angola. Um, there are also the teachers from South Africa. That's wonderful. Thank you very much for joining us today. Okay, and also there are some comments here. There's one viewer who's saying that digital resources can be good alternatives for teaching language. So they agree with us. That's great. Okay, we've also got viewers from Pakistan and Georgia. So Zainab, going back to the question that we've been talking about, how can we use these resources for teaching and learning? You mentioned authenticity, and we've also talked about differentiation and engagement. So, on the point, of authenticity, I think there are also other things that teachers can do online. For example, they can use Google Earth. If your students have access to devices, then they could point where they are, or where they are from using Google Earth. They could actually go to places on Google Earth, maybe a museum, and use it for descriptive activities. And also you can set up VR, virtual reality, activities in the classroom. For example, you can take students on virtual tours of
Yeah, field
museums,
trips.
zoos, and parks, exactly, at the click
Yes.
of a button. So I like this website. It's called goodhousekeeping.com. It's got virtual tours of all the popular museums, zoos, and theme parks around the world. For example, Walt Disney. So you could take students, on a virtual tour of Walt Disney, and they could describe, what they see, or maybe how they would feel if they were in that place. Maybe, practice second conditional. So it depends. So you can also use, virtual tours to engage your students. And I think this can be very fascinating because not all of us have opportunities to travel around the world, but at the click of a button, you transport your students to.
Field trips are amazing, and it's nice because they could be studying about something in their course book, about a place in another country,
Oh,
and
yeah.
then they can visit it. They can actually go. So if they go, it could be a museum. They can actually see what the museum is like in each room, and it's very different from just looking at a picture in the course book. They can actually see in real life what it's like inside. So as you said, not just museums, they can go to national parks in
Oh, yeah.
different countries as well. So there's so many different places you can take them. You can even do it just as a warmer. Let's visit this place and have them see what it's like in another country or another place.
Absolutely. Zainab, that also brings another aspect of digital use in the classroom. I think we often use digital resources for review, for recycling and for review in the classroom. And these activities also lend themselves well to formative assessment, because formative assessment is not about, judgment and evaluation and certification like the end of term, the other summative assessments. So I think teachers can use these tools, to make formative assessment more fun and engaging. For example, you mentioned Kahoot, and Kahoot gives you, your students a score, so you know what the problem areas are, which means if you need to do some remedial lessons and go
Yeah.
back and revisit any concept. So that's something that you can very well do. Also, there was a question that I was thinking about earlier, a question that a teacher asked me, not in this community but elsewhere when I was working with teachers. The teacher asked me, how can we differentiate online tools, because that can be challenging, right? Imagine you use Kahoot, but how can you differentiate the use of Kahoot for different learners in the classroom? I think that's a very valid question. I think some tools, do offer flexibility. For example, you can make them, multimodal, which means that you can incorporate images. For example, on Kahoot, on Bluecat, there's Bamboozle, all of these tools, Nearpod. So you can incorporate images, videos that can, accompany the questions or the text. So sometimes you have the flexibility, to make them multimodal. You can also, set time limits, maybe extended time limits,
Yeah.
so students who are able to finish them quicker, of course, the fast finishers, but the other students who need more support, might be able to use that extra time to answer those questions. So there are some ways in which you can tweak and also make these online tools more suitable for different levels in your classroom.
Yeah. And the good thing about online tools is a lot of them cater to and they tailor to students' needs and levels. So when you, for example, what I like about online tools is that students can also do it at home. They don't necessarily have to do it in the classroom. So
Absolutely.
creating something like a WhatsApp group with your students
Mm,
where you can post links, post certain apps that they can use. Um, for example, you have the app Khan Academy that has, especially for younger learners, it it works in a way that it asks questions based on the student's needs, based on the student's level. So as the student answers questions, as they move from one level to another, the questions are adjusted to their needs. So these are also, it does the differentiation for you. It saves you time. So I think create WhatsApp groups with your class. If they're younger students and they don't have devices, create it with their parents. If they're older students, you can create it with the class. A lot of schools don't allow devices in the classroom, so they wouldn't be
Mm.
able to use it in the class anyway. So this is extra things they can do at home. And a lot of teachers complain from time constraints. They don't have enough time to finish the curriculum, let alone have time to do online games with them in the classroom. So use, create groups and post what they need to do at home. Because it's online, because it's an app and it's fun and engaging, students will most likely do it. You can give it to them for homework. The next day you can review. Everybody can tell you what their score was, or they can send you their score, a screenshot of your score, and you can just have a bit of a revision or summary with the class the next morning. So there's a lot that they can do outside of the classroom and not necessarily inside the classroom. And it works because it caters needs as well.
Yeah, I mean that's a great point, Zainab, and I think you having and using WhatsApp groups, allows room, to do lots of other things with your students. You can also do review activities, like you said, flip the classroom. They can do things at home. But we'd also like to remind the audience, if you set up WhatsApp groups, especially when you work with young learners, make sure you've got consent, from their parents for data protection and privacy, because it's important and it's something that we must do as teachers when we work with very young learners. Zainab, there are some comments here in the chat. One of the viewers is saying that using digital resources can foster creativity, problem solving, help teachers and students clarify meanings for each other. So it can also be used as a great, tool for planning lessons. There's another comment that says, living in a digital age, we have to learn and use digital resources in the classroom. Yes, I think that's a
Yeah.
debatable point. It also depends on access to digital resources. But if you think you do have access to digital resources, then yes, I mean, why not? And even if your students don't have access to them, if the teacher, I mean, I'm sure all teachers have a mobile phone, it's possible
Yes.
that you're able to set up, some activities using your mobile
Mhm.
phone if your students don't have access to devices in the classroom. So
Yeah.
there are ways
I'd
of
like
tweaking
to,
and adapting.
yeah, I'd like to say something about that. So I've had a lot of teachers come to me and say, we don't have internet access at home, at the schools.
Mm.
We don't have any type of technology in the school, no smart board, no projector, nothing. But I'd like to say that when there's a will, there's a way. I've had teachers tell me what they've done in the schools in order to integrate digital tools. So, like you said, they use their devices, they use their phones, or if they have a laptop, they bring in their laptop. A
Mm.
lot of them have bought small speakers that they connect to
Oh,
their
nice.
devices so that the students can hear something. Some of them even bought those small projectors that project on a wall, and they will project something from their device as well. So there is a way around it. A lot of them have been able to do things in the classroom with their students. A lot of them have created WhatsApp groups as well, and they ask students to do things at home. So even if you have zero access to technology in the classroom, like I said, you can work around it somehow and incorporate, at least, I mean, not going to be doing it every day, but incorporate at least some digital tools in the classroom.
Absolutely. That reminds me of my own experience, Zainab. When I used to train in limited resource situations, I used to carry, the audio speakers with me. So, yeah, like you
Yeah,
said, it's possible.
it is. It's possible. Yeah.
So, Zainab, we've been talking about, helping using digital resources for teaching and learning. I think that immediately brings in the aspect of support. So, how do you think we can use, the different tools that are available to us to help students collaborate, basically for collaborative learning?
Yes. So, one of the best things about digital tools is that it encourages collaboration. So, you have certain platforms
Mm.
like Padlet, Google Docs, where students can brainstorm ideas together, they can share ideas together. So, inside the classroom or outside the classroom as well. They can also give and receive peer feedback. They can comment on each other's work digitally. So whether it's in a Google Doc or on a Padlet. Padlet's great because it's nice. It's very visual, and you can upload a picture, and you can comment on each other. So Padlets are great, especially with for collaborating, for students to collaborate. Um, and what's great about collaboration is it does not have to happen locally. You can connect classrooms outside of the school or outside of the country as well.
Oh,
So
yeah.
in my day, when I was in school, we had something called pen pals. We would write to each other, students in other schools from other countries sometimes, but we would have to wait 3 weeks or 1 month for the letter to come. Um, now you don't have to do any of that. You can have a live stream in the classroom with another class. You can collaborate with other students to create a project from another school, for example. So there's a lot of cultural exchange, shared ideas that can happen through these digital tools, that can be extremely engaging and interactive for the students.
Absolutely. And like we mentioned before, if your students don't have access to digital devices in the classroom, you could set these up, for homework. So
Yeah,
it's a project. Maybe students are working on a project and it's something, parts of the project. So maybe the planning with their peers could happen in the classroom, and they could
yeah,
execute some parts of the project at home using parental devices, under the supervision of their parents.
mhm,
And that's possible, and they could get teacher support, from sharing that information, for sharing that information with everybody else. So it's possible, there are different ways you could set these up for your students. Zainab, we've been talking about the use of digital resources, and I think, as we know, the digital space today is very, very noisy, and it can be very overwhelming for teachers because it's evolving at a rate that we are finding it very hard to keep up with. At least I have been playing
exactly.
catch up, and I assume that this is a situation for many of the teachers around the world. So how do we evaluate or choose digital resources? So there's a little checklist that I usually use, when I choose digital resources for student use in the classroom. And here's the checklist. Is that clear, Zainab?
Yes, I can see it.
All right, so you can see there are some questions on the checklist. The first two are the deal breakers for me. So the first question says, is it safe and appropriate for my lion learners? So basically, if students have to use these digital resources or a digital tool, is it appropriate for their age? Which means no harmful ads, so you have and links to any harmful content. So are there any links to any harmful content? So you have to think about that. The second question is, does it protect learners' data and privacy? Again, does it require any unnecessary sign-ups, access to their microphone or video? So those are a couple of questions. And if the answer to that is a no, it's usually a deal breaker for me. So I might not use that digital tool in the classroom. And I'm going to jump straight to question number five. Five says, is it inclusive and accessible? I think that's a very good point. One of the viewers has also mentioned this in the chat about using resources that allow, for example, text to speech and speech to text recognition for helping students with hearing and visual impairment. Also, when we talk about inclusiveness and accessibility, it's also about, access to devices in the classroom. So does everybody need a device, or can students work in groups with just one device? Perhaps, maybe or maybe not. So these are some things that teachers have to consider when they evaluate, the use of digital resources. The other questions are very straightforward. Does the tool support the learning aim? We've talked about that. And is it easy for learners to understand and use? Again, we're talking about differentiation and digital literacy here. The last two questions, is this going to help me manage the lesson pace and timing? Like Zainab mentioned at the beginning of this discussion, I mean, is it going to support learning or maybe take over your lesson? It should be the former and not the latter. And the last question is, do I have a simple plan B? So that's something that a lot of our community teachers mention, having a plan B. So what happens if tech fails? So we all need to have a plan B to go to, so the learning continues to happen in the classroom. Oops, okay, it looks like we've lost Zainab. You know, Another challenge, working with digital technology and resources. We hope she's going to be back soon. All right, let's go to the comments in the chat. One of the viewers is saying that we could use a tool called Platagon. Sorry, I hope I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing that correctly. For role plays and text to speech for audios and Canva. Diffit is really helpful too. Yes, indeed. There's a question as well about QR code activities. Oh, Zainab, you're back, so at the right time.
Sorry,
So there's
sorry
a
about that.
question. That's all right, Zainab. Technology, we're talking about technology
Yeah. What are
challenges
the
that we
drawbacks?
all have to deal with. Yes, indeed.
Yeah.
So there's a question here, Zainab. Perhaps you might be interested in answering this one. As you can see it on the screen, it's about QR code activities. So anything you want to say is here, Zainab?
Sorry, I can't see it. Can you read the question for me?
Oh, yeah, sure. The question is, I'd like to know more about the QR code activities. So maybe it's about
Oh,
the activity that you shared. Yeah.
yeah. Yeah, well, basically, you create any activity you want. So here, for example, I created a Padlet, and I chose a video from BBC Learning. You can choose one from YouTube, and I also created a game on WordWall, and then I just created QR codes for the links, and I printed out the QR code, stuck it on the wall, and then the students just scan whichever activity they want. So you just need to create an activity and then create a QR code for it. Print out the QR code or project it, for example, on a screen, and the students just need to scan it. So the QR code is basically just to save time. With a link, you're going to have to either have to type it in or you have to send it to a platform that they can. It's just really to save time, and they're already up before the students come in, and they just have to use their device to scan. So it's really just to save time. And then they also have those options. You can create more than one activity, and they have the option of which activity they want to do.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, like we talked about it before, I think it's great for differentiation. So you could also have the same activity, but with different levels of challenge. So students can scan the QR code, see which one they think they might want to do. Maybe they might try one and they might think, oh, this is quite easy for me. I might want to try maybe activity B. So which means that you give them the agency to choose something that is suitable to their level and their interest. So it's also great for differentiation.
Yes, it is.
All right, Zainab, we've got only a couple of minutes left, so and we were also talking about professional development the other day,
Yeah.
Zainab. So how can we use digital tools to support our own development for teacher development?
Yeah, this is a really, really good point. So, you know, when it comes to digital tools, not only do students benefit, teachers obviously benefit as well. And teachers are very busy. I mean, in the past, we had to physically attend face to face courses, or we had to find books or articles that we could read in the library. But nowadays, everything's in your device. And, like I mentioned, we're busy people. We don't have time to attend courses, but you can now attend short courses on, certain professional platforms like the Teaching English website, for example, and take the digital competencies course if you want to.
Oh,
Um,
yes.
yeah, great course to take. And Also, I think with digital tools, what was also good is aside from blogs, videos, articles, lesson plans that you can find online, it's very good for self-reflection. You can use your device to record yourself teaching,
Mm.
and then watch yourself after that. I think with reflection, when you just think about what you did in the classroom, you don't really see everything as you would if you watched yourself. Also, sometimes colleagues want to observe each other, but their timetables just clash. It doesn't work, or they just don't have the free time. Again, you can record each other's classrooms and then just watch it in your free time. So there's a lot of things that we can do. We can, find lesson plans. We can get ideas. Also, I think now is very, very popular. Everybody's using AI for helping create lesson plans, to get ideas, also to help with giving students feedback as well, maybe marking or correcting assignments, projects, as long as we are using it responsibly, of course. We need to make sure that we are using it in the right way. But I think, is now probably the most powerful tool when it comes to teacher development. I think we're running out of
Yes,
time.
indeed. Yes, I
Mm.
mean, maybe we
Yeah,
can take another couple of minutes and
yeah,
it should be okay. Zainab, talking about AI, I mean, we were discussing this earlier. I think you talked about using it responsibly, and plagiarism is one of the common, side effects or disadvantages of using AI. And I think as teachers, we have to be mindful of plagiarism ourselves. For example, we may not be able to, use some, for example, I mentioned this earlier, we cannot use course book maybe activities and directly post it into an AI app, so because that would be violating copyright. So, and again, we mentioned making me videos using AI. Again, you cannot just pull a conversation from your course book and then give it to AI to make a role play, because then you might be violating copyright laws. So in those situations, please think about adapting, making them your own, so you don't violate any of these rules and guidelines. Also, when you get students to use AI in your classroom or at home, please teach them, it's part of digital literacy, to use AI responsibly. For example, I teach in a high tech environment, which means a lot of the writing assignments are done by students online. And I have a checklist, a self reflection checklist that I usually get my students to fill in after they complete their writing assignments. And it has questions like, is this my own work? Have I
mhm,
used AI to complete this work? If yes, have I copied ideas, verbatim, or have I summarized ideas from AI? So I usually use a self, reflection checklist to go with these writing activities, so students can, look at it and reflect on the use of AI when they complete these tasks. Of course, they might not be 100% foolproof, but there's only so much that we can do as teachers to encourage our students to use technology responsibly. I think that's, and also we have to model it ourselves in the classroom. So when you use AI and digital tools, it's important that you model the ethical and safe use of AI, so students are able to learn from your example. So basically, the point that we are trying to make is that it's not about using a lot of tools. Basically, it's about making better choices.
yeah,
And when you use digital tools, I think intentionally, purposefully, also ethically and inclusively, I think it can support teaching and learning for you and for your students.
yeah.
Okay, I think
Okay.
we've run over time now, Zainab.
Yeah.
All right, so that
Good.
was
It's
a
a very
great
interesting topic.
conversation.
Yeah, it
Yes,
is.
it
It's
is.
very
It is.
interesting.
So we've had a great conversation with all of you today. Thank you so much for being here and for helping us reflect on digital use in our teaching. Zainab, any reminders for us before we go away?
Yeah. So next week, I think there's a live event, Huma and Steve, right? So it won't be
Yes,
me. I
Stephen,
think Steve
yes.
will be with Huma. Can you just remind me what the live event is about next week?
Oh, yes, we are going to be talking about classroom management for primary. So, if you're keen on learning more ideas about teaching your primary learners, we, request you to come along and join the conversation next week. Thank you so
Yeah.
much for coming today. Thanks, Zainab. It was lovely chatting with you as always. Thank you, Philippa and Chris, for helping us in the background. Thanks, everybody. We'll see you again next week. Bye
All
bye.
right. Thank you. Goodbye, everyone. Bye, Huma.
Bye, Zainab.
How to see more of our videos on YouTube. When using a shared device, check you're logged into your YouTube account. Do this by tapping the profile on the main menu. When sure you're in the right account, select Search from the top menu. Search for the British Council Teaching English channel and select it. Look down the page for British Council Teaching English. Tap on it. This is our channel. To be alerted whenever we share a video, tap Subscribe. Then tap Subscribed. Select All to be notified of all our new videos. To see these notifications, tap on the bell in the top menu.